Wait, is that? I think it is. The next part has gone. We've done it! We've reached the ending! We're finished! Now that we've made it to the top. Now that we've made it, we ain't ever gonna stop. We've done it. We're at the end of the story. Whew! Let me just say, these books ended here. I would do the review gladly, but we still got one more book, so you're still going to have to wait one more year before I do the full-on review of the entire series. But still, what a book! What a book! Infinity! Let's flew. The unicorn opened her eyes as she lifted herself off the grass. In the distance, there was nothing but an endless field blanketed by fog, giving the look of a distant, more fancy location. Though she wasn't sure of either. For that matter, she wasn't sure how she got here either. Hello? The unicorn called out. Hello? She shouted out for some pony for the longest time, with no answer coming. After a few minutes of that, she started to walk in a chosen direction, which soon turned into a canter, which developed into a outright gallop. Hooves flying amongst the verdant blades, footfalls landing and finding perches, somehow tearing out gouts of loam and vegetation as she moved on. After an intermediate time, the corner reached a massive stone wall impeding her progress. Not sure of which way to go, she headed to the left. For what felt like minutes, hours, or years, time somehow didn't seem to mean much here. She came across nothing. With no visible breaks in the wall, she chose to head back the way she came, in the hopes there would be some luck. And it looked like there was. She hadn't taken more than a few steps before she came stop in front of a massive door. The door was open as she peered inside. Within, a great white figure sang to a pink Pegasus, as ponies of alabaster white danced around him in poses, while music filled the air, as if their intricate play were in progress. But as the unicorn looked at the being of ivory, she couldn't make out more than a blur in a great light, as if the figure was a shining star in the sky. Still, the unicorn's heart ached to see the glowing creature, as she longed to be beside it. She took a step, and twin doors of silver slammed shut in front of her. The doors bore the sigil of a blue heart from crystal, wreathed by laurels made of gold. The unicorn pushed at the doors, but they would not budge. She knocked at them, screamed for those within to let her in. No avail. There was no answer, no response that acknowledged she was there, and only the echoes of her pounding hooves gave any indication she existed, for nothing else recognized her presence. After a few minutes, she turned away from the door, dejected by her reflection, but hopeful she would find a response if she continued going on. After a somehow longer yet shorter passing of time, the unicorn found herself at another portal. This time she walked in completely, if only to prevent being denied entry by the doors. In front of her was a great expanse of clouds, and above the midnight sky was stars racing from one end to the other. Somehow reminded her of hyperspace. How did she know that term? In its grand spectacle. But it was the figures in the distance that caught her attention. Again, the white figure that was so called to the unicorn's heart appeared once more, now speaking to another unicorn, somehow familiar to the first. Great images, seemingly whole screens, though again she knew not where the term came from, seemed to flow and pass the two as the larger organism sang to the other unicorn. The first unicorn's heart broke. She wanted so much for the luminescent form to acknowledge her. In a desperate attempt to call out to them, she opened her mouth, only to find herself with her mouth shut, standing outside a giant golden pair of doors, closed as the first. These doors bore a starburst of white and purple on it, in concert with 6 smaller stars. The stars sang to her in a sort of twilight gesture, though the unicorn didn't know why, only that she'd been denied twice. She collapsed on the ground, tears coming to her eyes unbidden, as she felt the crushing loneliness of the empty world around her. It was then she felt the warm, golden light upon her. She looked up, and the clothes seemed to beckon to her, caressing her muzzle and drying her tears. Without delay, she got up and started galloping in its direction. She wasn't sure why, other than it called to her as she needed to go. It was almost as if it was a declaration of love and devotion, a promise that this time she would not be spurned. After another non-passage of time, the unicorn came to a stop in front of doors, seemingly made of pure bismuth, glowing with radiant and iridescent coloring across the entire spectrum. The blaze on the doors was a sun in a partial eclipse, burning with colors of deep red and brilliant yellow, and a sort of light and dark dance, yin and yang, polar opposites that were nonetheless part of one another. Or the radiating with a golden light that moved its way across the unicorn until it came to a stop behind her. The unicorn turned to look, her eyes facing the path of the light and coming to a stop on her flanks. Was bore the same emblem. As if on cue, the great doors opened, and a golden light flickered within, beckoning her to come in. Instantly she followed, afraid of being cast out once more. As the doors remained open, she continued on, following the light. The unicorn walked on through the dark, guided by the glowing light in front of her. She briefly turned to look for the doors, but didn't see them any longer. In truth, nothing behind her remained but the darkness. She then gave up on them, focusing her attention back upon the light. She continued to walk upon time until she came upon a clearing of trees, lit by a mysterious light that seemed to be nowhere and everywhere at once. And it made sense, given that these trees were no trees. The trees were made of what appeared to be strained glass, and a grand image of console in the middle of them, as if a variant of the hollow screen she saw earlier. Again, how did she know that word? Displaying some sort of image, as if it was a story. A nervous unicorn mare leaving a bundle of swaddling on the doorstep of an orphanage. A young filly, magic burning around her like the sun itself, accidentally turning a royal carriage and the surrounding escort carriages into a tea-serving set. The beautiful white alicorn taking the young filly in her wings, holding her close as a mother holding her daughter. The unicorn's eyes began to tear once more at the image of the alicorn. A word, unbidden, came to her lips. "Mother," she murmured. The unicorn's unbridled joy now unleashed at this memory. The being was her mother, and the brilliant white figure she couldn't see earlier, with the Pegasus and the other unicorn, was one and the same. No other words needed to suffice. But who were the other ponies, and why were they with her? The unicorn wiped her eyes and moved on, continuing to look at the images of herself and her mother. Despite the sorrow she felt, she couldn't help but be happy as she looked at the images. They felt so bright and airy, as of a simpler time. A unicorn sleeping next to her mother, while the alicorn raised the sun. The unicorn filly, casting spells that had made so many countless adults, while the alicorn looked on with utter pride. The alicorn tended to the filly while she was sick, despite the older pony having far more varied and important responsibilities. However, it was clear that from her presence, there wasn't anything more important, any pony more important, than this ill filly. The unicorn smiled, feeling her mother's love and wishing she could see her mother at the moment. But then the sky turned red and the world darkened. The bright crystalline trees became gnarled, twisted mockeries of themselves. She suddenly knew that all good things eventually came to an end as she looked at the newer images. The unicorn filly, now a teenager, acting as though she was far too important for others because of her status, with her mother looking on in dismay. The teenager, now an adult mare, arguing and insulting every pony around her, flaunting her power as if it were a toy, a cruel and malicious look on her face. The unicorn and her mother arguing. The look in her unicorn's eyes on the image frightened the real unicorn looking at it. But this paled in comparison to the utter heartbreak she felt when she saw the angry but despondent look on that of her mother. Finally, the unicorn running through what appeared to be a magical portal, forsaking everything. She gasped, hoping the images could not be worse, that this was her fevered, tortured imagination at work. It wasn't, and it got worse. The unicorn, now a young human girl, how did she know that? Naked in a world of snow. Somehow she got to shelter, created clothing to shield herself from the elements, and started making a life for herself in this new world. The girl, forging documents and claiming to be someone else, taking a position in a school in this world so she could learn more about it. But to her heart there was a human woman who looked much like her mother, though she carried neither the patience nor the love for this girl. The girl found love elsewhere, in the arms of a boy. Though as much of her fault as his, she hoarded herself before the boy, finally ditching him when she had no further use for him, or admittedly vice versa. A reign of terror against countless individuals, male and female, destroying them all, ruining them, and in one case outright destroying a girl. Unicorn recoiled as he saw what she had done, and her heart felt like it snapped in two. A brief return to her homeland to steal an artifact she could use as a weapon against her mother, only to have the artifact open a portal in her heart that a demon of the human world crawled through, possessing her and claiming her soul. In the end, took the interface and the other unicorn from earlier, now an alicorn herself, 5 human girls, the ones the girl had bullied the most, to end her reign of terror once and for all. The final image on the last tree was that of the girl, broken and battered, defeated and humiliated, with 6 girls standing above her to pronounce judgment. The unicorn came to a halt, crying once more, though this time out of sorrow. She cried her heart out, all the while sobbing how sorry she was, how much she begged forgiveness, how she would do anything to turn aside those years of pain and anguish. She begged forgiveness from her mother and the other girls, from the unicorn turned alicorn, even from the boy she wronged as much as he wronged her. She begged and cried until her tears were spent. Her eyes were red and throat was dry. She drifted off into an uneasy slumber. Was so soon ended by a warm, golden light shining on her. She looked up to see the light glowing, in the distance a bright, welcoming light calling to her. Desperate to be rid of the darkness, the unicorn galloped as fast as she could. As he ran, the world began to brighten once more. The trees became crystalline once more, the images shining brighter. The girl, making friends with others and gaining a new family. The girl, protecting others against forces considerably darker than she ever been. The girl, once hated by the school, reaching the pinnacle of its social apex once again, but now because she was beloved and trusted. The alpha bitch had become the go-to girl. The girl, spending time with her friends and helping them as she could, earning their respect and camaraderie, in one particular case, love. The girl, opting to take on loyal forces of darkness at all costs, because innocents had been hurt and her loved ones were at risk. Then in the center of it all was a massive stone statue. On a raised dais was an eerily lifelike marble statue of a girl, face contorted in semblance of grief, crying out in anguish. The reason for that was the dead unicorn in her arms, and a figure that made the one looking up shudder in grief. Words came to her with clarity. "Twilight, I'm sorry," the unicorn said, tears coming to her eyes once more. "So you understand, Sunset." The woman turned towards the new voice and found the trees were gone. Instead, there was a massive wall, filled with stained glass windows and bright tapestries. A huge golden dais raised up, reached the massive throne, and on that throne sat a titanic white alicorn with blood-red hair and kind blue eyes. "You figured it out much quicker than the others. Many take years in the great pasture before they remember who they are once again. Death is a cleanser of a sort. It will wipe away the pain of life. But sometimes the good must go as well, to lessen the burden." "I'm dead, aren't I?" Sunset, now knowing who she was, looked up at Faust. "And you fulfilled my plan. It was, let's say it was desperate. I needed to set forces in motion, but my ability to operate on this plane is limited. My adherents and worshippers here are too few, and we are not a natural part of the design here. I can't say much more, you wouldn't understand. But I had to do something to counteract my failures." "Counteract?" "Yes. I allowed a monster to settle here, one that is all too real and far more dangerous than Wonderstone's or Grogar's imprisonment. But this monster has thrived and grown here, and I cannot interfere. So I had a course for to have someone I trusted to do the job. It wasn't easy. It was, admittedly, an accident born of desperation." It took Sunset another second to make her realize. "Me?" she asked, pointing at herself in shock. "Sunset, have you ever wondered why Platinum's mirror was open just as you fought with Celestia? Or that you were able to come back 24 moons later on a mirror that operates every 30 moons? Clarity sank into Sunset's mind, recalling something she always wondered but never really put into any stock. "You did that?" Faust nodded. "As I said, it was a desperate gamble. I had problems that needed to be solved here, and my influence decreases daily. On the other side, I had to watch as my daughter and granddaughter fought. Thus I made a very risky move, and hoped that all the pieces would fall into place." Faust descended the steps. The human term, call it tough love. But Sunset locked into a single word. "Granddaughter." Faust nodded. "I am Celestia's mother. You are her daughter, and she is your mother. Thus, I think it would be rather obvious." Faust reached out and kissed Sunset on the forehead. And words cannot ever express how proud I am of you, granddaughter. My only grandfoal, unless Luna gets her act together. Faust wrapped her great wings around Sunset, embracing her. Sunset leaned into the embrace, and the two stayed there for the longest time. So what happens now? Do I move on to the great pasture? Faust laughed. Oh no, you don't get off that easily. There are things you have yet to accomplish. That puzzled Sunset. Such as what, your majesty? She asked. Grandmother. Faust reminded her. Going to be hard to adjust to that. So far my experience with grandparents has been, shall we say, eclectic? From what I can tell, they seem very accessible people. As are your other grandparents, once you meet them. Meet them? Sunset said with confusion. But they're human. They can't come to the great pasture. You're correct about that. But as I said, you have the task I set forth for you. Additionally, you have a second family now. One that loves you as much as we do. And I suspect your sister will need you more than ever. She's, well, seems to be far more fragile than your counterpart is. Sunset thought of Twily, and Twily's own words to her. Nah, Twily seems to think Twily's stronger than she lets on. Perhaps she is. I suspect you will want to be there for her. For all of them. They're my family, after all. A thought came to her. You aren't offended, are you? Faust chuckled. Just as I've told you once before, you're a child of both worlds now, not just of one. Just don't forget about us. This old gal tends to get lonely doing her job, since I can't spend as much time on the terrestrial plane. Sunset hugged Faust's leg. In many ways, it made her feel like a filly again. I promise not to, grandmother. Good. Then go do your duties. Alicorn of Earth. Meanwhile, on the living world, the others came out to them as Raspberry approached. Adagio's smile fell. Well, you survived. The now former siren commented. Guess you aren't all bad. We didn't all survive, Raspberry said softly. Some of us gave too much. Adagio instantly realized what the former unicorn meant. She was my friend. I'm never going to forget her. Despite the anonymity between the two, Raspberry patted Adagio on the shoulder. She deserves to be remembered. Let it out when you get the chance. Did you? Yeah, we did. It's over. But we didn't win. Adagio sank to her knees, crying for everything she had lost. We didn't lose, but we sure as hell didn't win. No, we didn't, Raspberry said, reaching down and hugging the other girl. For once, Adagio didn't argue, but embraced her rival. A light began to glow in the room, and a second later, flowers started to bloom everywhere. Red and yellow roses, filling the room with a cloying, peaceful scent. From somewhere in the distance, music played. Will somebody ride me to the fair? Everyone turned to the right and seeing strange ponies, a unicorn, a pegasus, and an earth pony, swaying in time with the music. They were all alabaster, with wheat brown manes and sky blue eyes. They wore brilliantly white stoles, and their heads were bedecked in golden wreaths. They continued to walk towards the humans, so the field of impossible flowers, while seals singing. To the morning sings the lovely flower. The earth pony approached with teary and shod velvet, reaching out with her hose and placed one of the flowers in her hair. Will a lady pin me in her hair? The Pegasus walked up to Spike, and taking one of her plumes, did the same to him. Will a child find me by the stream? He will love me in the sunny shower. Kiss me my petals, weave me to a dream. Unicorn then approached the knight and laid a hoof in his heart. For all these simple things and much more, a flower was born. It blooms to spread love and joy, faith and hope to the people forlorn. The trio then began to canter around everyone, the room growing brighter. Inside every man lives the seed of a flower. If he looks within, he finds beauty and power. The trio began singing a rising note, which was doubled by the appearance of 3 more ponies. Trebled, sextupled, increased by magnitude until there were dozens of alabaster mares hitting the exact note. Ring all the bells, sing and tell the people everywhere that the flower has come. Light up the sky with your prayers of gladness. Rejoice, for the darkness is gone. Throw off your tears. Let your heart beat freely, and the sign a new time is born. And then a figure started to walk towards them, graceful and beautiful, mane burning with bright ruby and gold, a pristine coat the color of the ripest maize, glittering like amber, a crown, betrayal, and shoes made from radiant bismuth, flickering all the colors of the rainbow, and topped up with a deep red stolus etched at the bottom of red and gold piping. You know, this is like what? The 9th, 10th time we've had Faust show up to wrap everything up? Sticking out of the stolus side ports, 2 magnificent wings folded at her sides. She was beyond brilliant. The glorious figure approached as everyone looked on in utter shock. Raspberry looked at the newcomer and instinctively bowed. Raz, get up, okay? The figure laughed. You've known me long enough. It was instinctive, Deocorn said defensively. Because I'm new to the world now. You're the first pony to have seen me like this, so I suspect it's natural for it to happen. Velvet looked at the new creature, hearing her voice, disbelieving it. Sonny? She asked, thinking it too good to be true. The unicorn nodded. Yeah, it's me. Sorry I made every pony worry. But, she has ascended, Raspberry said, her voice still holding a note of wonder. Finally getting up and looking at the others, she added, she's now literally a goddess amongst our kind. Everyone said it at once. A goddess? Please, everyone. I'm not a princess or anything. I'm just the Alcorn of Earth. Raspberry's jaw dropped. You're a queen? No, and stop that. I'm not a queen any more than the ruler of the Crystal Empire is an empress. Sunset explained, quickly editing lest Cadence be confused. I'm just me. You all know me. She then transformed herself into a human form. Am I that different? The answer to that was clearly yes. She now stood several inches taller and filled out more, having a figure closer to that of Cadence or Luna herself, closer to that of an ideal woman. BOOING! Because of what was more ideal than a goddess. Hubba, hubba. Sunny! Twilight rushed up and hugged her sister, sobbing. I'm so sorry. Sorry for everything. The neophyte goddess bent down and kissed her sister on the forehead. It's water under the bridge, Twilight. I could never be mad at you. Velvet took a moment to compose herself. Sunset, do you remember what I told you when we first met? Sunset remembered fondly. It was words she had taken to heart. That you had a professor once tell you that it's more important who you are now than who you were in the past. That's right, the matron said with some hesitation. And what do you want to be now? For Sunset, there was no hesitation. Tears of joy in her eyes. She went and hugged Velvet, saying, Your daughter. The two held each other, tears streaming down their faces, holding one another. A second later, a teary night joined in. It was long before a massive group hug with mother and daughter at the center, enjoying an unbroken moment of love. At least, until Velvet said, Oh, and Sunny, you're grounded. The smile fell from Sunset's face. I'm grounded? Yes, you lied to me, to your whole family. What were you going to tell me you were an alien from another dimension? Eventually? Velvet became angry, apparently genuinely so. I am your mother. You were supposed to tell me these things. How? It's not like a big difference that I was a unicorn and now an alicorn, okay? I'm still the same girl I was. Knight broke in. Ladies, I think we can let this one slide. Our daughter did literally just save our lives, I suspect. Technically, probably the entire universe, literally, Sunset admitted. See? Plus, I get to see what a Sagittarius A-star looks like. Do you know the kind of papers I could write about that? Velvet wheeled on. Oh, so you're going easy on her just because she gave you the kind of scientific breakthrough that'll make you famous? Well, if you put it like that, it is a little unfair, hon. Vel, go easy on her, Celeste told her friend. She literally died and came back. That tends to be punishment enough, I think. Not according to some people! You know who you are. Fine. Velvet husked. So again, Sunset Shimmer, I will not be happy. Am I clear? As Imperial Crystal, Mom. Sunset looked around the room. Well, Oof! Her words were cut off at that moment. Pinky immediately tackled on Sunset, laid a huge kiss on her lips, not caring who saw. Yeah, definitely not gonna get used to this universe, Raspberry commented. It'll grow on ya, Arya insisted. Sunset managed to break away from Pinky's lip block enough to say, Pinky! But the girl didn't care. Instead, bawling horribly to make sure to maintain an iron grip on Sunset, resting her head against the taller teen's bosom. This is starting to look like a bad anime, Remo commented. No shit, Luna agreed. I don't know, judging by the animation style, if we add a little touches here and there, put in a awesome opening song and maybe a couple of cool insert songs, this could probably be a decent anime. I could see it going for a summer 24 list with maybe 4 cores of 26 episodes each. We could totally do it. Well, we need to get out of here, Sunset said, literally teleporting Pinkie off her and make sure she stood just inches away. But first, she walked over to Divine Right. A little less than a year ago, I was nearly in your position. I got pulled out of a crater by people who became my best friends, who taught me there was a better way. I suspect you won't ever see that option. As he was about to speak, he was immediately silenced by Sunset's stare. You destroyed lives and nearly brought hell to Earth. I can't have that happen again. So you will never see freedom again. She turned to look to the others. Does anyone have a problem with this? He was pronounced legally deceased months ago, Solaire explained. Obviously, he was faking his death, but as far as the world knows, he is no longer alive. Then that's how he'll stay. Sunset snapped her fingers, and the yellow ball Divine found himself in exploded. A transparent crystal fell to the ground, about the size and width of a TV remote. Inside it was a miniature Divine Right, pounding the interior, demanding to be let free. Sunset picked it up and handed it to Raspberry. You deal with him. I suspect you were going to anyway, right? Yeah, just a bit. But he's done all his crime here on your world, not on ours. Hence why the world's better off if he's in Tartarus. He'll never escape from there, and even if he does, he won't know how to get back. Plus, he's used magic here. Was it still unknown? There's still too much of a risk right now. You sure? I mean, I told you what was going on back home. Raspberry reminded her, tinking to Crystal reluctantly. Trust me, everything will be okay there. And I'll get you home as soon as I can, Raz. Hell. Because I just need time to know what I can do now. She yawned. Look, we're all wiped out. I think we'll want out of here before the police hit this place. Given I dropped 3 solar lasers and a 6.0 earthquake on the area, let's just go to our place. We can all talk there. I suspect we're going to need a lot of talking. Yes, we are. Sunset turned to look at her counterpart, looking at her with a mixture of shock and anger. Like, who's the hell are you? You know, you probably had access to Chernobyl's memories when you were in a half-dead state. Just give me a chance to explain, Sunset. Boom! And that's everything, Sunset said. The sunset was starting to pick up over the horizon, something she could already feel, giving her now permanent link to it. It was close to 6 in the morning, as near as she could tell, because he had already learned to tell time by reading the magnetic pulses of the planet. So he had more senses it now, it seemed, as he was going to have to get used to them. She summoned another cup of coffee, probably her third one. Anyone want another? There were some muttered groans as he summoned several more, passing them, to filling out the empty ones to the kitchen. I'm not sure I could ever get used to that, Knight admitted. You never do the distance, so it shouldn't matter, Velvet said wearily. Look, Sonny, I'm gonna be honest. This is gonna make things a lot harder, not just the adoption, given now that we have 2 sunsets where there should have only been 1, but all this, Celeste suggested. Yes, for lack of a better term, yes, all this. You were dead center involved in serial killings. They came after us, Mrs. V, Rainbow chimed in. We didn't go looking for trouble. They confused us with the other sunset. I'm right here, Simmer said testily. What Rainbow means to say, Rainbow rarely spoke, taking the diplomatic route. Also, they erroneously assumed we were with the human sunset, based on the fact that we associate with our sunset. We were just enjoying our vacation in harmony, and then all this happened. And we got there in time to stop the wholesale slaughter, but not enough to save the girls, Adatio added. So they were innocent, and now it's all over. And we're homeless, and probably in severe legal trouble. All of us, Pine said sadly. Look, if need be, I'll turn myself in. I'll take the heat. Greenie, no, Sanaa told her. You fought alongside us. You saved the world. You have no life without my sister, the young woman said sadly. I'm lost without Sice. Plus, someone has to protect Sunny, or else they'll find out about her someday. So I volunteered to be arrested. You know what that means, right? Cadence asked her. You'd be confessing to both the deaths of the sirens and the dead hand killings. They'll know it wasn't you, but given the police have no idea who's behind it, they won't bother looking when they have the perfect suspect. Especially when the CPD and the ECSD are overworked for just to follow the freak hurricane. Now all this, Sighing added, you'll be lucky if you get life without parole. My life was over the moment my sister died, she said, burying her face in her hands. Yeah, well, good thing I wasn't there, Zephyr said, putting an arm around Solaire. Or else I might have to arrest her. Solaire, tired but very happy, leaned against the man. This sucks! Rainbow got up and stomped around the room. We got these awesome powers. We're like superheroes and shit, but we can't help anyone. Rainbow, it's more than just that, Twilight said. Are you even trained? Do you know how to control your powers? The Hispanic girl laughed and scratched the back of her head. Not really. There's another thing to consider, Octavia said. You need to train them, Sonny. This was a mess on a biblical scale. And now, better for worse, you're basically biblical yourself. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep at nights anymore, knowing what I know, what I'm going through. And how do I know you're not responsible for that? Sunset looked at her cousin like a wounded bird. Octavia, frustrated, muttered a quick apology. What about us? Arya asked. We have nothing left. Well, what's going on? CSIS is going to put a freeze on any other funds they might find. And Arrowhead and Les Scars are going to cut us down to even find out we're survivors. We'll be running for the rest of our lives. No, we're not running. Not anymore, Tatsuya said. This is our home now. These are the people we belong with. Maybe we're too young to live on our own, but we don't have a choice. Besides, I don't want to run. I'm tired of all this. I just want to be a normal girl. Same, Sonata said tiredly. Celestia folded her arms and said, So we have a string of unsolved murders caused by a man who is legally dead, and a girl volunteering to take the fall for something she didn't do. At the same time, we have dozens of illegal Canadian assassins, that sounds so weird saying that, dead in the middle of downtown Caroline, which was also the epicenter of a 6.0 earthquake and a massive unexplained solar phenomenon, and downtown still standing. The educator entirely looked at Sunset. Sunset, you've caused trouble for me before, but this time you outdone yourself. But it won't last. Night turned on a nearby TV, and on it was CNN, covering the dozens of bodies they were pulling out of the rubble. That was the construction site in the center of downtown Caroline. A headline at the bottom said it all. Foreign Army found a Caroline? They'll find your IDs and trace things. I'm not a cop, and even I know this. They'll find you. All of us. He said, looking at his older daughter with concern. If I have to go down fighting, I'll do it again. Sunset said, I won't let anyone here suffer any more than we already have. I'll do whatever it takes. No, you won't. Sunset looked at Velvet. Sunset, that's not your duty. Mom, I'm an alicorn. No, you are a normal teenage girl. Okay, maybe not completely normal, but average all the same. So he went over and hugged her daughter, saying, You can't save everyone and everything all the time. I'm not sure if that's even possible. I don't want you tearing yourself apart to try. Sunset sighed. Mom, I know that. Hell, I'm trying to adjust my new powers and how I'm going to deal with my counterpart here. Silver took a sip of her coffee. Fortunately for you, we're only here on vacation, so once we get back, I'm out of your hair. I didn't mean it like that, Sunset told her. Look, this is weird for me too, okay? Mom once told me I was supposed to have a twin sister, but that was she was stillborn. If you were that girl, then maybe I can understand it. Maybe I can be of help. Everyone turned to see a woman standing there, suddenly appearing. She had blood-red hair and blue eyes and wore a simple white t-shirt and blue jeans. I wasn't expecting to see you here, Grandmother, Sunset said. Grandmother? Everyone said, looking at the woman who didn't seem much older than Cadence. I'm getting too old for this shit, Velvet groaned. Perhaps I should introduce myself. My name is Faust, and I am Queen of Equestria, though I no longer technically rule, and the head of the Alicorn Pantheon, she said. Walking to Velvet, she said, My granddaughter is my most precious possession. Please take care of her. I will, the matron said solemnly. As he turned to Sunset, my time here on this plane is drawing to a close. This is your realm now, sweetheart. But you cannot protect it if things are this precarious. You need protectors. So he looked at the fire and sirens and said, They will need two. They will need protection. I have a plan, but if it succeeds, the world you know will be very different. How different? Pinky asked fearfully, flying at the Sunset. I can't. She turned to Sunset. I don't want to lose you again. Pinky, you won't, Sunset began. No, I'm serious. Tears started to fill her eyes. Now that I know what I want in life, I don't want to lose it. Even if you never look at me the way I want you to, I don't want to lose you again. Faust chuckled. So different from the one I'm familiar with. Have faith, Miss Pye. Things won't be that different. Then how? Flairside asked. Will my relationship with my father be different? Again, not that different. Some things must remain they are, so the world can retain some semblance of what you know. The dead must sadly stay dead. Some ties must remain as they are. You know, in spite of time reset for all this, I would have loved it if this whole thing just ends with Val snapping her fingers and Sunset waking up in the canon Equestria Girls world. It's not fair. No, it's not. Rosemary told her. But it's a given, a strength of character you wouldn't have otherwise. A strength I haven't seen in someone else I know like you. You need that strength for this world. First I got the hint and said nothing further. Well said, Raspberry. But it'll be the hardest for you. This last, Faust said to Slayer and Simmer. To accommodate my granddaughter, you'll need to live a life for the remainder of your days. Done. Simmer's answer was instant. She saved me. She didn't have to. It would have made the world so much easier. I was already dying. It wasn't right for you two as well. I was already half dead when you took on Turnabach, Simmer said, as if recalling a true thing. She kept me in the twilight realm between life and death, because it was the easiest way to keep my body alive and me not. So I owe you. I will do you what you want. If it doesn't mean I'll come to harm. Of course it won't. And you, Your Highness? Faust said to Slayer. I owe this other Sunset my daughters and my own knife. Plus, she is avenging my dead brother and sister-in-law by getting rid of that bastard. So yes, I too will back my daughter's choice. Then so be it. Faust raised her hand, and a blue light flickered to life in it. And at that, everyone in the room fell asleep. Now to do what must be done. As he moved around the threads in the timeline from one to the other, cutting off some and attaching others, she felt a passing of guilt for a number of reasons. These weren't their lives anymore. Not really. Some of it needed to be cut in the others, while some needed to be changed to strengthen a few. Things were coming that she could not participate in, so all she could do was prepare for the forces of what lay ahead. Part of that, of course, was that many of the changed world would not remember the new timeline as if they lived it, but remember the old one in tandem. She heard a cackle in her mind. You fool! You know they will not abide this. They barely abide me. But you are moving the fundamental powers of this universe. You're giving me power in process. Yes, I suppose it is like rearranging furniture in someone else's house. So he replied in kind as he continued to weave quantum strings into new forms of reality, changing probabilities and possibilities. And I will gleefully find all the spare change as a result. The man's fucking voice said, I will be a god, and you will put me there. Oh, this is rich. Now I can see why Discord laughs at such folly. Have care, villain, Faust said, weaving the final strings. Outside, time swung backwards as her spell took effect. She could feel countless stares at her, the glares of being, knowing she was twisting rules and laws that were not her persisted to do so. Being a god is a difficult proposition in this realm. They have disbelievers here, and god-slayers. I do not fear you, Faust. You have nothing to fear from me. Not anymore, fiend, Faust said, but you will fear my granddaughter. She cut the line off with thought, finality. She then looked at the timeline she so radically changed. For the common being, changing a timeline as if it were a pair of shocks or a saddle was incomprehensible. And they would be right. This wasn't exactly what she did. What she did was more akin to her surgeon's skills in surgery. Admittedly, it was a little more complicated and metaphysical than that, but the analogy still didn't fit. She couldn't bring her paradise for anyone involved, though she wished so very much. She couldn't even do that for her daughters, much less her granddaughter. All she could do was try to keep them safe, and even that was a certainty. Faust could feel that things were done. It was time to go. She bent over Sunset and looked at her granddaughter with love. The last time we luckily ever see her again. It broke her heart, but at least there was a heart to break. Bending down, she kissed Sunset on the forehead. "This is your world now, my dear Steinchild," she said softly. "I made it as safe as I could for you. Guard it well, for it is yours, just as you are its. And this is your bailiwick I charged with you protecting." A melancholy setting in, she opened a rift back to her plain reality. "Going so soon?" a new voice asked. She turned to see a man standing there, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. He had tan skin, a neatly trimmed beard, and a pleasant smile. "I've done enough damage to your realm for my selfish reasons," Faust said apologetically. "I've used it for things that I should not, and now leave someone dear here to serve both my penance and my promise to make things right." "That's not necessarily," the man replied. "None of us are completely innocent in what we do, even though scripture and doctrine may say otherwise, but that's for us mortals to concern themselves with." "I see." Faust gave the man a weak smile. "Then please. As a foolish old mare, I have a request. Watch out for my granddaughter for me. This way you'll be forever barred to me now." "No, it won't. I can assure you of that." He shrugged. "I cannot explain why. But even unto another deity, I assure you the way will not be barred. Besides, if you look, there will be something in motion." He pointed at a single quantum strand. "From there it'll grow, and someday your granddaughter will be known as the rest of us. She will be one of us." She was sure. "My thanks. I only hope I can be forgiven what I've done." "She will ensure it. After all, I know something about sons cleaning up after their fathers," he said with a smile. "Fare thee well in your own efforts." Faust grinned. "Peace be unto you." And with that, Faust left. It was time for, well, time. The end. To be concluded in 7 Days of Sunny June, Book 5, The New Frontier. Phew! 3 months on this one! Wait, let's see. June, July, August, September. Oh yeah, 4 months! Yeah. Ready for some Power Rangers after this? Who knows? Maybe we could do a fic you don't like next time. Yeah, well, there's a couple of one-shots that some people have requested over this time. Yes. Maybe we should visit this fix Discord and show off the video. After all, we did put a lot of work into this. I know, Trix. Gotta give this fic credit, though. This is one of the few times we've done these very long ones, and I didn't have to fast forward through anything, or replace it, or be mad. I was happy. Yes. Oh. One long one down, thousands more to go. See you next time.